Nobody knew, the fans didn't really grasp just how serious the situation was.
The gates were locked at Ayresome Park and we had nowhere to play.
They were actually winding up the club completely. There would be no Middlesbrough Football Club.
It was just awful. They thought that, you know, there's just going to be no borough anymore.
We knew we'd been relegated, but what we didn't know was that there was worse to come. If you think about things now, we've seen so many football clubs come back from the brink. You just expect it. But in those days, it was pretty uncharted water.
Current chairman and then young ambitious Borough fan, Steve Gibson, with a bit of influence, got some people together.
Been seen on Look North going around trying to rally some sort of core of businessmen together with the council and thinking, can we do it, can we do it? And when it came to the final day, it still hadn't happened.
It was literally 37 minutes before the deadline, and that was it. We were that close to going out of business completely.
If they hadn't put together some kind of deal to rescue the club, we were going out of existence.
Well, I'd been in discussion with the Arts Council some time ago about another project, a play that I'd written out like this in America, and was then inspired by the Crystal Palace Fan Centenary Project, which had received funding from the Heritage Lottery Fund, looked at what they'd done and thought, well, we could do something similar, and that was the inspiration, really. And also I'd been involved on a play called Ziggy-Zagger, which many older fans would remember, and I wanted to use that kind of structure to plot the Middlesbrough story as well as the story of the town. Well, I quickly learned that I needed guidance, and so approached about 5 or 6 arts consultancies around the country and said, this is what I was hoping to do, would they be interested, what sort of fee, and this and that. This led me to meet up with Brian Debenham of Brian Debenham Associates in Newcastle. He was very keen to get involved. He obviously had an idea of the local area. But he'd also just taken on a new colleague called Heather Minto, who was borough mad, and jumped at the opportunity to run with this. Heather, to her credit, did a lot of the legwork, got the galleries, got the museums involved, got the schools involved. It took about 9 months in getting everything in place and getting everything right. And so really it was Brian as a key player supporting Heather's application, which got us the money in the end. So we had Tony Mowbray there, we had Ivor Crowther, the head of the Heritage Lottery Fund North East, and we had Ali Brownlee, who was the voice of Middlesbrough from BBC Radio Tees. We had fans, we had some of the actors from the play, and we all did our little speeches as to why we were excited about the project. And it was all done in front of the old Ayresome Park gates, which the locking of those gates is etched into the psyche of many a Borough fan. So it was good to be able to do that, and in that situation, in front of the brand new Riverside Stadium. I think there was just still a massive buzz, and I suppose because of the anniversary in itself, this was something that they were proud to celebrate, they were relieved to celebrate. BBC Look North were there, ITV Newcastle were there, various newspapers. So lots of interviews, lots of people expressing opinions, expressing hopes, and just a really nice atmosphere. We couldn't have been better prepared. The volunteers had all received training, they knew how and what to do. People were very keen, and quite often you could see them sharing their memories with each other. And then there was people who popped in that one guy, it transpired that his love of Middlesbrough extended to this massive tattoo, which we took a picture of on his back. And it was those kind of quirky things that you just think, that's a real passion if they're prepared to go through that kind of pain and to have something so permanent on their body. first thing that I was able to attend after the gallery was the t-shirt design competitions run at Dorman Museum. It was just such a buzz to see parents and their children just with little bits of material, little felt tip pens, and just to see the creativity involved and the engagement and them taking control of the process. They were designing things as they saw fit, and it was very personal to them, and you just felt that we were on the right track if this is how people were able to gain ownership of the project and turn it into something that was relevant and enjoyable to them. Linking back to the Zigga production, where that was really effective was that they had a terraced crowd, so they had like 120 young actors on stage. We couldn't do that in my play, so the way to get around that was to record a choir. And I'm so glad that we did it, because being something of a lapsed choir boy myself, I was quite interested to go along and went along to one of their rehearsals. And they were really quite keen, and it was funny because I asked a friend who went to the last day and I said, what were they singing? And you know, was it You'll Never Walk Alone? And she said, yeah, and I thought, well, that's a bit obvious. And I said, but what else? She said, oh, they sang Abide With Me. And I thought, great, that's the way to introduce that whole last scene. And just singing it in a hall for the purposes of the production, it still has such a power to get to you, you know, even though it's sort of out of context. It's not at a cup final, or it's not the last day at Ayson Park. Before my closing eyes, shine through the gloom and point me to the skies. So we'd approached Teesside University, Graham Henderson, the Vice-Chancellor, and he said, yes, we'd love to help out. I'll put you in touch with Mark White, who's the head of my office. And Mark was just absolutely superb. He offered us rehearsal space, he offered us the main hall, they made the film of the performance. I mean, there's so much to be thankful for. People really enjoyed the play, but it was very well received. It's now on film, which is available obviously on YouTube, so people can watch it at their leisure. Plays like that just work on so many different positive levels. It's the opportunity to hear characters talk like we talk. It's themes, music even, that people can identify with. And I can remember one of the actors, George, saying there's a scene where two girls are deciding whether to go to assembly or not, or bunking off. When the hymn kicks in, I remember George saying, I'm just so back at school when this starts, so it's just uncanny. Somebody else said, I didn't get that scene with the two girls, they'd been bunking off. And what was all that about? But of course, it was about the importance of education at the time, and how one girl rightly said, we've always been factory fodder, haven't we, miss? Except now there's no factories. And of course, in the telling of the story, the whole problem of unemployment was very much to the fore at the time. I like that scene. I just think it sort of shows kids are very aware of where they are and how they're treated, that they're under no illusions. You could take this idea anywhere, to any community, sports community, and just build a community play around it and the whole project, and so it's very transferable. Early in November time, we put out a call to people asking fans to donate memorabilia, and through Dave Allen I'd been able to visit the Middlesbrough Football Club and looking at their stock of what they had. Bernie Slaven was very helpful in promoting that message, and again the media were there, and that worked just absolutely wonderfully. And in fact, I had a number of calls from people who said they'd just heard about this exhibition even when it was on, and they had loads of programmes and shirts, and could they get involved? And of course by then it was too late. So there's probably even more stuff out there that we could have used. Louise Harris did a great job, and it was lovely to look at and very well curated. And people just fell for it absolutely big time. And the photographs, Paul Thompson's photographs, there was just a lovely mix of the kit, the medals. After the opening with Tony Mowbray and Gary Pallister, who made some lovely comments which are on the website about he, as a young player, young local lad, appreciated that this was a special time and how lucky they were to be in the business. And it just worked big time. And for that event alone made the whole thing worthwhile, really. Not just for me as director, but for people, the museum, the fans who share those experiences and the pain and the pleasure. Well, maybe the Middlesbrough Institute of Modern Art had a number of things. They did a printing workshop. They had an artist who did the beauty or recreation of the Middlesbrough versus Port Vale game, which is the first game of the new season when Middlesbrough came back. They also did a smaller exhibition with artists interpreting their love of football, and it's really interesting pieces. And they were very successful with the events that they did, so that was great. With the Olympics being on the cusp, and I knew the club were considering putting events on at the Riverside Stadium, so I'd married the two ideas together. Invited people to design a poster that would be a family day out to celebrate the Olympics. And they could have anything from music to sports activities, and it was totally up to them. And we had some fantastic responses, and we were able to choose a winner from each of the age groups, rather than year groups. And so we had a winner for aged 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. And there's so much colour, and there's so much different approaches. And of course the reproducing of these posters in the education pack is so colourful, and I've attached comments that we as the judging panel made to celebrate their achievements, and hopefully people will continue to produce these posters and do their own thing. That's why it was an important part of the pack. Writer's Block? Well, they're a fantastic organisation that work with a lot of creative people, and James Harris, who was one of the key people there, he said it's almost as if we give people the permission to be creative, and it's almost like they want to do it, they're not sure if they can do it, but by just coming to us and getting involved in their range of activities, it seems to free them up, thankfully.
Give me 40. 1.
Boss!
2.
This really hurts.
3.
She's not listening.
4.
I love her.
5.
Then in the 90s, I moved to my new place. Very spacious.
The Middlesbrough Central Library invited Paul Cookson, who is an Everton fan but a very successful poet, and he did a very good workshop with the primary school children. And also the Captain Cook Museum worked with primary school children, looking at how communication has changed since Captain Cook's time to the present day, and also looking at the various different international communities from which the Middlesbrough squad, you know, Brazil and Cameroons, and so that the Middlesbrough Football Club has a global map which they explored as well. So it really did work on so many different levels, the project. The thing was to have a range of activities that would interest but also challenge people, whether it's Key Stage 2, 3 or 4. I think 2 that I would pick out was one of the geography exercise, where pupils have to measure the distance of every team that Middlesbrough played in the 86-87 season, and which was the furthest away and which was the nearest, and how far would the team have travelled, and also find out where these places were, and to find out 3 key facts about that particular town. I think that was a very interesting one. I think one other thing I would point to is the marketing of football, and we went through from scarves to Subbuteo and table football games. And then finally the whole thing with Thierry Henry, and how do would-be sponsors feel when he handballed that assist for the French goal against Ireland. If you were a manager, what would you do about that? If you were a global company, would you want to associate with Thierry Henry? So there's really sort of moral questions as well as the measuring and writing. I wanted it to work on all those levels, and a very visual stimulus as well. We launched that and worked with Ayresome Park Junior School, who were absolutely fantastic. They did another design idea, which was either a new kit, a new football trophy, or a mascot, and it was about teamwork, and they had to explain why they'd chosen their particular creative decisions. You know, it's all based on just solid, good educational practice.